Welcome to the Off Leash Podcast with Dr. Pete. I'm your co-host, Molly, and we are so glad that you joined us for today's show. Remember, we are never here to say what you want us to say. We are just here to be an advocate for your pet. I got Dr. Pete sitting across from me.
Making faces.
You know what? I'm going to make fun of you really quick because you always make fun of me for saying real quick.
Yeah,
real quick.
I just had a conversation on the
and
phone
he goes,
that turned out to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be.
He goes, I got to call somebody real quick.
Yeah.
And whenever I say I'm going to do
I quickly called him. And
yeah.
So
full of shit.
Getting this guy to answer the phone was quick. Yeah, the rest of it was not so quick.
But whenever I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to go do this, and you go real quick.
Well, you always say real quick.
I know, I do.
Quick.
That's like my catchphrase.
Yep.
Okay. So, speaking of not real quick, you have been a veterinarian for
51 years.
1 years.
Yep.
That's not real quick. That's a long ass time.
It is.
So, what we are going to talk about today is the veterinary profession as you know it today and when you started and how different it is. Because 50 years is a big gap of time. I imagine a lot of shit changes.
Well, there's the thing that does not change, and that's the patience. And I've said that right along. People don't get more snappy and more impatient. Well, no, the patience.
The patients, not the clients.
Not the clients.
So wait, hold on. Let me get this straight. The clients are the people. The patients are the dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you say that's a client, okay, makes sense.
Yep.
All right, just some clarity.
Yep.
So the patients do not change.
No.
Well, no. Aren't there all these sub-breeds now that weren't a breed like 50 years ago? Like golden doodles are like a relatively new thing.
That's a new thing, and probably if you ask me what our what practice is like now compared to it was before, I'm really not talking too much about the species of dogs. I think
just the fact that they're dogs.
Yeah, they're dogs, and they're either friendly or they're not real friendly, or they're angry. The patients. But the clients are more difficult to deal with. There's no question about that. The people are more difficult to deal with now than they were back then. But the amount of information they have has gone up exponentially now that they can get online and look
stuff up.
Yeah. So that nobody has any dark, deep secrets anymore because it's all out there
on the internet.
On the internet, yeah.
Dr. Google.
But I can tell you this: if you were going to start a practice right now, you'd have to probably you get yourself a building. Let's just go through this. You get yourself a building that was zoned right for having a veterinary practice, and then you'd remodel your building, and then you'd have to go out and buy equipment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the equipment would be probably
X-ray machines.
At a minimum, probably $75,000.
Jeez.
Yeah. So.
Is that what you did? Did you?
No. Well, I did that, but I didn't pay much for anything. So I actually, the guy I went to work for died after I'd been there for about 10 months. And then his widow decided to sell the practice, and she sold it to somebody, not me, because I didn't have any money. I made an offer, but it was like incumbent upon them holding the paper on this. In other words, I'd pay them over a period of time for the practice and everything. And I gave him a number, and she would have rather gone with somebody who had cash. So she went with somebody who had cash. I'm not sure if I was in her position, I might do the same thing, take the cash.
Yeah.
And so really what happened here
What building was it? Was it in Battle Creek?
Well, I moved down to that A-frame that I'm in right now, and so that's the very first place I started, and I rented it for a year or so to make sure it would work out, and then I bought it. And then the guy I bought it from was a car dealer in town. His name was Don DeNoyer, and he loaned me the
Chevrolet?
money. Yeah.
Really?
He loaned me the money to build a 1,200 square foot addition.
Wow.
Yep, and it was reasonably inexpensive to build back then because it was back then.
Nowadays, it's so expensive.
I thought I built something that would last me forever, and it didn't last me forever. It lasted me for about 2 years, and then we outgrew it and had to add on again. So we've added on a number of times. But when I started, I had to have enough equipment, surgery instruments and all that sort of stuff. And there was a gentleman over in Jackson, which is about 45 miles from here,
right,
that had died. And so I went over, and his widow was he didn't have really a practice to sell. He had equipment and everything. So I went over there with a pickup truck with my dad, and I went through all his stuff and picked out the stuff I wanted. And by the time I got done, I took just about everything he had. He had some cages. I took those. He had an X-ray machine. I took that. he had tanks to develop the X-rays in, which is what you used to do. You had dip tanks.
Oh, wow.
And so I got the dip tanks, and I had to get that all plumbed into the place we were at, to do X-rays and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I want to say I got all that stuff for about maybe $1,200.
That's it?
That was it.
Holy
the X-ray
cow.
machine was $300, and the tanks were $100.
What's an X-ray machine nowadays?
Oh, I don't know, 25, 34. Well, more than that. If you're going to get digital, you're going to spend $70,000 on an X-ray machine.
Is that why X-rays are so expensive for dogs now?
Well, I'm not sure it's why they're too. I'd say it's the most profitable machine we own in the building. But
let's talk about prices.
Well, they've gone through the roof.
Okay, so back when you first started, how much was a spay and neuter?
Well, let's look at it different. I don't remember what a spay and neuter was, but we used to talk about the office call. So I went to a meeting one time, and they talked about the office call should be whatever a postage stamp was. So if a postage stamp was 5 cents, it ought to be $5. If it was 10 cents, it ought to be $10. So, and that was kind of
what is the correlation there?
I don't know. I mean, it's just that was somebody's take on the whole thing.
$10 for an office call.
Yeah, well, $7 or I think our office calls are $6 or $7 back then, a long time ago. And really, what happened was, what's a first class stamp right now? I don't know.
I buy like a whole paper. How much is in like a full paper?
Probably 100.
No, it can't be that much.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
But I think it's around 70.
$20 for the whole paper.
Okay, so how much is first class postage now on a letter?
How much is a stamp note today?
So
you want to guess?
About 70 cents.
74 cents.
74 cents. So it's kind of amazing because our office call is $70.
Really?
Yeah. So it's gone, and it isn't why we have that kind of an office call.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway,
But now it's like everything. I mean, we talk to a lot of people out in California where they talk about bringing in their dog, and it's $200-$300.
Yeah, but I mean, $70 is the office call. That's the exam and to get in the room and get weighed and to have somebody listen to the heart and lungs and all that sort of stuff. And really, that's kind of what it is.
Which isn't bad. I think, how much is like a regular doctor's appointment for you and I? Like a checkup?
I don't know because everybody's on insurance, and then you have a copay. So I'm not really sure if I ever actually even see that. I just do the copay.
That's another thing. Pet insurance. Was that a thing back when you started?
No. It was never a thing. And it really got started maybe 10, 12 years after I got out of school. And nobody really sold much of it because it was clunky, and really veterinary medicine was affordable then. And now even veterinarians, even some really affluent veterinarians are insuring their pets because even they think they can't afford to have a special operation done.
Now pets are, yeah.
It's kind of too bad. I mean, there's always good, better, and best. That was a thing that they had in mail order catalogs back then. It was, this is good, this is better, this is best. So people get a choice usually of, here are the three or four ways I could do this.
Yeah.
So this is good, better, and best. Yep.
Okay. What about treatment? What about diseases that you'd see 50 years ago?
Well, we saw distemper. I saw a lot of canine distemper.
Explain distemper.
Canine distemper was something that really was a virus that most of the time dogs less than a year of age got. They started out with kind of a dry cough, and then they got...
Is it like parvo?
No, it's different. Parvo is a GI thing, and this is more of a respiratory thing. But there was a component to it where you got demyelinization of some of the nerves.
Okay.
And they got something called chorea, which was involuntary muscle twitching and stuff. So you'd sit there and the dog's, its face would be twitching. So we knew that demyelinization had occurred. And demyelinization is where you take the covering off of electrical wire, And so now you have stray voltage going all over the place and everything.
Oh, and that's what causes the...
Yeah.
Okay, so how much distemper did you see back then?
We saw it every month, every week probably.
Percentage of client or patients that would come in.
2 or 3% maybe, not very much. But
today,
but it was you don't see it at all anymore. I guess they have it occasionally. You see it in a really isolated area, like maybe Indian reservation or something like that, and you still see a fair amount of it coming out of Mexico.
And it's caused by
a virus.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's just like.
But it's still in the vaccine. So DHPP, the D is the distemper. DHPP.
Oh, I did not know that.
Your dogs
What's
are vaccinated.
What's the HPP part?
Well, that's hepatitis, parainfluenza, parvo.
I did not know what those stood for.
Yeah, so they're all viruses.
Distemper.
Distemper, hepatitis. Parainfluenza.
I've never heard that one.
It's an upper respiratory thing. And parvo.
Parvo.
Yep. And so those diseases, we didn't have parvo then. Parvo came later.
What's DHLPP?
DHL is with
lepto?
Lepto. And back in those days, lepto was only 2 serovars of lepto. Okay.
To what?
2 serovars of lepto.
Serovars? What is that?
A serovar would be like lepto, pomona, lepto.
Oh, 2 strains?
Yeah, 2 strains. Ectohemorrhagica.
Dumb it down for me.
Grippotyphosa, canicola. Yeah. So
too big a word.
So now the lepto part is 4. Back in the day, it was 2. And that was probably the most reactive part of the vaccine. So we had a fair amount of reactions. Now, over the years, they've cleaned the vaccines up a lot.
I didn't know that they jammed so many things into one vaccine.
Yeah, it's in there. I mean, a lot of stuff, like rabies just has rabies in it, and Lyme just has Lyme in it.
So I've seen you mix up the vaccines before. I know that there's like a
cake.
What's the cake?
The
dry part?
Yeah, the dry part.
The dry part and then the wet part. And then you roll it around and then you draw it up.
Yep.
So what is the dry part versus is the liquid part? Does that do anything?
The liquid's a diluent, and most of the time there's nothing in the diluent, but occasionally there can be. Sometimes maybe they might have the lepto in that part of that. So, but most of the time we're doing vaccines, and we have what we call core vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
When back then, core vaccine would have been distemper, hepatitis, and by the way, hepatitis was a thing, and those dogs used to get when they got hepatitis, they get a blue eye. They get a blue film over one of their eyes, and that was usually a vaccine reaction to the hepatitis. So you get a blue eye. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I don't remember how many times we saw that, but it was very evident. And like a 10-year-old kid would come in and look at and say, "Well, our dog has a blue eye." It's like, oh, there's a condition called blue eye. Let's see if you had distemper hepatitis given. So it was just DH. It was a DH vaccine at one time.
Okay.
When I first got to school, it was just DH. Okay. After we'd been out of school for a while, then it was DHP, and then it was DHPP.
And then DHLPP?
And then DHLPP. That's right.
They just keep adding stuff.
Well,
do you ever think that they take it off, like distemper? If they don't see distemper, they wouldn't take it out of the vaccine?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And let me tell you what happens when you do. It comes back.
Really?
Yes. So all you'd have to do is not do it anymore. And then you'd have all these dogs in the United States, 90 billion of them, with no titers that distemper. Okay? So now all of a sudden distemper comes back into vogue. Somebody brings a truckload of dogs up from Mexico. They all got distemper, and they get put in a shelter in Texas, and then they get distributed to Oregon and Montana and New York and South Carolina. Next thing you know, you got distemper. Apparently, they still see distemper in some place upstate New York and stuff. So
really,
yeah. But normally, when you vaccinate for that, and just for the record, when you do a distemper vaccine, that may confer. If you get a couple of those, that may confer lifetime immunity against anything.
Really?
So we still vaccinate them every 3 years because there's immunologically competent animals and then immunologically incompetent animals. So that's what you do.
That's wild.
Yep.
Okay. So the vaccines have changed over the years. What else has changed? Obviously, the technology has changed drastically. Back then, did you used to spay and neuter as many dogs, or was it?
Yeah, there weren't very many dogs that were left intact. I mean, female dogs are really sort of a pain in the neck when they're intact because they bleed all over the house a couple times a year.
But back when you started, let's just put it like this. Back when you started, dogs weren't primarily inside. They were outside, correct?
No, they were primarily inside probably.
Were they?
But it was probably 30-70, 70 inside, 30 outside. And now there's some outdoor dogs, but there's damn few outdoor dogs. In fact, if you dragged a 10-year-old kid into the clinic and asked him
what a doghouse is,
what a doghouse looked like, the kid would be like, I don't know.
What you end up in every time you piss off your wife?
Yeah, something that my father gets threatened with every once in a while by my mother. You're going to be in the doghouse. And that came up last night. We were talking about with a friend of mine who was an old ex-basketball player, and we were talking about his coach got mad at him and put him in the doghouse. So he didn't get to start for 4 games. Then they let him go back and start again. Yeah. Punishment. Being in the doghouse.
That's fair.
Yep. But now they have these foghorn, leghorn cartoons and stuff. And of course, the dog in that one's always in a doghouse. Spike or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So has it changed? Oh, hell yes, it's changed a lot. Back then, we would get heavily parasitized puppies, and they would, like a lot of hookworms and stuff.
Yeah.
And you get a little 9-week-old beagle puppy, and he'd be bleeding to death from all the hookworms he had, because now they have hookworm control in the heartworm preventative and all that stuff. So we don't see anywhere near the amount. And you used to look through the microscope when you'd run a fecal, and there'd be like 250 hookworm eggs.
Really?
And you kill the hookworm eggs and give the dog a little iron, and he'd pop back like nothing ever happened.
That's so nasty.
They were the blood was being destroyed as fast as it was made. So these hookworms, and then, and you had some stuff called Telman, and there was DNP, and there were all sorts of, it was an injection you gave for hookworms, and there was oral stuff, Telman, and there was, was something called maybe detoluene at one time.
Yeah.
Task, which was an organophosphate, which we haven't used in years. So there was all sorts of things you had, but a lot of them were toxic.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the biggest difference in what you've seen in veterinary medicine then versus now?
Well, the diagnostics. We have in-house diagnostics. We didn't have much back then.
Oh, so you'd send them all out?
Yeah, we sent them all out. I had a little Mallinckrodt machine. So if I was treating a cow for milk fever, I could go back in and run the calcium, see how high
I forget that you were always large animal first. Okay, so you were large animal for how much of your career?
Oh, 35% of it maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were, okay.
So it was mostly a large animal practice that did some small animals. So it was 70 large, 30 small. And then
was the A-frame large animal?
Yeah, that was large animal.
Did anybody bring in
Nobody brought anything in. We drove out and did stuff.
So, okay.
And we would just use cars and then sometimes vans and that sort of thing. And so we'd take a van around. You had all your stuff in the back of it. And then I'd have to figure out how to keep stuff from freezing. So we'd have a little portable heater we'd put in the van at night so stuff didn't get frozen.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, back in the day, man. So when I got out of school, there were some veterinarians that actually knew Fred Flintstone. So that tells you how long ago it was.
Oh, my goodness.
That had treated Dino.
So what?
Have you ever watched Fred Flintstone?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You know Dino then?
Yes.
The little baby dinosaur?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yabba dabba dib.
Yeah, dabba dabba doo.
That's right. So.
I haven't heard anybody say that in forever. Yabba dabba doo.
Yabba dabba. I was like, I hope that this is from the Flintstones. I don't remember.
Sure.
It's vivid. So when you were a large animal veterinarian, what made you want to make that transition into small animals?
Well, we'd always done small animals. So we were a mixed practice. We did large and small. So it wasn't like I didn't do zero. I just got, that part of the business got bigger.
And at some point, I feel like you get...
Well, at one point in time, then we had somebody who was a really good large animal veterinarian, Dr. Emery, and we said, that
he's got it handled.
He's got it handled. That's right. There was not a lot of synergy between having a large and a small animal practice. If we were looking, and so Dr. Bob Emery, he took his part and went on his way, and he became really good at doing dentals and horses, and he has another partner now, and so they do. In fact, his other partner, Jason, I saw him at dinner with one of our old dairy clients, and they were for New Year's Eve. So
That's
anyway,
funny.
yeah. So it's
he's great.
Still a people business.
Yeah.
It was a people business when I got out of school. And it was, and every once in a while you had veterinarians that graduated from veterinary school that didn't like people, and so they wanted to work on cats and dogs, and that was a stupid way to do it because, well, it was a foolish way. I shouldn't say stupid. They got out of school. They weren't stupid, but it was foolish to think you weren't going to have to deal with people. You have to deal with people, and it's a people business.
If you don't want to deal with people, you should be a technician. The technicians don't deal with people as much.
They got to deal with clients too. Everybody has to deal with clients.
But being the face of seeing clients is the vet.
Well, it is. Although lots of times I'll bring the technician up to the room and the technician gets to meet the client. And I'm all for that because I think that the client should know and they'll have a brief conversation with the technician if they're friendly and look like they're very obviously properly trained, and then you do pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you miss from back in the day, vet practice?
Oh, No, not really. I'll tell you one thing we used to do. I mean, we were so harried to get stuff done that I got into a really bad habit of eating my meals quickly.
I know. We eat every holiday. We sit down and whenever we have guests, they're like, "Your family eats so fast."
Well, yeah, we got stuff to do. We got stuff to do.
I feel like I'm in that habit too. Whenever I get the chance to eat, I just eat super fast. And everyone says that. They're like, you eat your food so fast.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I don't taste it. I just scarf it down and do whatever I got to do.
Well, and that was what we did. We'd try to eat. And back then, you go to a dinner party or something like that. And of course, I couldn't figure out that I wasn't working that day. So I'd be scarfing this food down. Next thing you know, everybody's about half done with their meal. And I'm over here screwing around with a saltine cracker. It's like fussing around with it. Do you have more saltines? Can I have another saltine? You idiot, just take your time. There's conversation going on at the table and you engage yourself in. But somehow or another, I thought, man, I got to get this stuff done because I'm probably strapped for time today. No, I'm not strapped for time today. Relax.
It's hard to untrain your brain to do that.
Well, yeah, it does. It does. And I just think it was, there weren't corporate practices then. Everybody was, and really, if you worked in the right town, you were all colleagues, so you all got along together. And that wasn't always the case. There was always, and you would see that every once in a while there'd be 3 veterinarians, and all of a sudden the 2 veterinarians would get mad at the other veterinarian. They'd leave, and they didn't have anything good to say about each other and everything. I think we've kind of gotten over that as a profession for the most part. That we view each other as colleagues, and this colleague may know more about this than you do, and that colleague may know more about that than you do, and so. And
you kind of leverage each other for what knowledge each of you has.
Yeah, one of the guys in our place is the orthopedic guy. And so, if somebody has an orthopedic thing, I show them the x-rays. And what do you think, dude? And what are you going to do here? And, we need to do.
Who's the reptile guy?
There is no reptile guy.
You don't do reptiles anymore?
No, there used to be Dr. Laheist did the reptiles. We don't have a reptile person in there.
Oh, shit.
It's all we can do to keep, the reptiles are fine, except a lot of those appointments take a lot of time.
Yeah, because it's hard to figure out what's wrong with them.
Yes.
Reptiles would be hard because they don't really show signs of pain, do they?
I don't know. I don't work on reptiles. I would imagine they would show signs of pain, although they're, I guess I don't know whether they ever sit around and cry about stuff, but, but certainly.
What about birds? Have you ever done birds?
Yeah, we've done birds. Well, we had birds at our house.
Yeah, Mikey and Willie.
Yeah. And you could tell when they didn't feel good, they kind of sit there all fluffed up and everything. So, yeah.
Fun story.
But go ahead.
Whenever you would listen to, I'd imagine it's whenever you would watch football and swear.
Oh, yeah.
They would copy the swear
words.
Well,
your mother said that one time when they came. So your mother would go up to the cage. We had yellow napes, which are actually green. They have a little yellow on it. But anyway, one time Sharon would go up and say to him, and she'd give him an apple with a little peanut butter on it. Okay. Apple, apple. So she's giving him these apples and saying this to the birds all the time. Okay. So I come in one time and the bird says, apple. And all your mother heard was asshole. And so she was mad. She says, are you teaching us? I did teach the one bird to sing Bread and Butter by the New Beats. Do you like bread and butter?
I like bread and butter. I like toast and jam. Yep.
She's my loving baby and I'm her loving man. Anyway, yeah. So they would do that. And
I remember they used to talk all the time.
Yeah, they talked to each other a lot.
But I remember that she said that she had to move the cage because when you'd watch games,
well, that was her
you'd say, "God damn it!"
Yeah, she says,
"God damn it!" And they started saying it.
Yeah,
and I knew that it was because you were watching the game, especially the Ohio State games.
And the birds would be actually, the setup we have now was, where the TV is, and the TV was right next to where we kept the birds, and so that's where she came up with all this stuff. Anyway.
So she had to move them into the office.
Yeah, she had to move them into the office. That's right.
But they still copied a lot of.
Well, they learned what they learned,
and they live forever.
Well, and the phone would ring, and they go, Sharon, telephone, Sharon, telephone, and the phone would ring. Nobody even answered it yet, and they were going, Sharon, telephone, because they answered the phone most of the time. They didn't say Pete, telephone. Yeah,
just Sharon.
They're just Sharon, telephone.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we never did birds very much.
Yeah.
Dr. Van Ryswick did. He was into homing pigeons and stuff. So, we knew a
I
little
didn't
bit
know
about it.
that he did that.
Oh, yeah. So we were into a little bit of everything, and, I went out and descended some skunks one day in the backyard on a table in the backyard. So, there's all sorts of stories.
Wait, like pet skunks?
Yeah, pet skunks. We had baby skunks.
Do people ever bring in raccoons?
No. We try to steer clear of those. They carry rabies, and they also carry Bayos ascaris, and they carry lepto. So they carry a lot of zoonotic diseases people can get. So we steer clear of them.
I know a few people with pet raccoons.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you want to have one, that's fine. But boy, you ought to make sure that they're clear of everything.
Yeah.
Before you
get them as babies. What about possums? Do people own possums?
I don't have anybody that has any of those that I know of, but there may be somebody. I just don't have anybody. But I remember when I first started, somebody had a squirrel that they kept in their house and everything. They brought that in. I'm like, oh my gosh, wonder what Thanksgiving would be like at their house with the squirrel running around.
That would be wild. What about those flying squirrels? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, they have flying squirrels, yeah. I never dealt with any of those.
Those exotic pets that they bring in. Have you ever seen any exotics?
Well, some, but every once in a while somebody wants you to look at a sugar glider for them or something.
That's it, a sugar glider.
Yeah, we just don't do that. So you have to be careful. You should deal with things that you're competent to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So where do you expect the veterinary industry to go in the next 50 years?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm glad of where it's headed. I think it's headed to where it's hard to get people to see very much in the course of a day because of the enormous amount of record keeping and everything you have to do, and that's an issue right now. So
I had someone tell me recently, they said, I've never met a veterinarian that didn't want to be a veterinarian. He's like, but I've met a hell of a lot of podiatrists that did not want to be podiatrists.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. I think that most of the time what we're doing is fairly noble and fairly satisfying because, you'll be out in public. Oh, do you remember when I had my one dog in there and we didn't think it was going to live for very long and you got another 3 years out of it and all that stuff and you did this and you did that and then I have to go, no, I don't remember that because it just all runs together.
It does.
If it's personal friends of mine, I sometimes remember that stuff. But actually, well, I will tell you this much. Here's what really has changed, okay? So when I first started, it was vaccinate a dog at 8 o'clock, 8:20, vaccinate another dog, 8:35, vaccinate another dog. After that, vaccinate 2 cats or 2 kittens. And then a little later, it's like sick dog, okay? Yeah, sick dog. And then vaccinate 3 or 4 or 5 or more things. So you'd have 3 or 4 sick patients in the course of a morning, and then all the rest of the stuff is vaccine. Well, hell, now the vaccines are like, okay, I'm vaccinating your dog's like, okay, can you figure out what this lump is? Can you figure out what that lump is? And
a lot more concern.
Right.
People didn't used to be concerned over like fatty tumors and stuff.
Well, we have to make sure it's a fatty tumor. You don't know if it's a fatty tumor unless you stick a needle in and find out it's a fatty tumor.
Do you ever get people that are like hyper sensitive to things wrong with their dogs? Like people bring in their dogs and they're like, he has too much eye goobers in the morning.
Well, no, but they thought about that, and then these are the things they're concerned about. And sometimes eye goobers because they have dry eye. So there's things you can do for dry eye, make more tears. And that's sometimes what dry eye is. You got a lot of kind of goopy stuff on the eye because you're not making enough tears to wash it all off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's a big deal. It's a big deal for them. And last time they got 2 tumors and I'm vaccinated. So I vaccinated them and they said, we'll go back and stick a needle and see what these babies are. And they come back either just fat. So
do people ever want to get them removed?
Well, your mother wanted to have her Sam's fatty tumors removed.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Just leave them alone, hon. They'll be okay. Just leave them alone. And then finally she wears you down. I can't deal with this anymore. Anyway, so I took them off and then they came back. They came, not a day later, but they came back a few months later.
Yeah.
She says, I guess we don't need to take him off again, do we? No. Because he had to wear a cone around his head and all sorts of stuff. And
it was just a whole ordeal.
And he was wrecking her legs and her furniture at the same time with the cone and everything.
Yep.
So I didn't have to. So your mother has a learning curve just like every one of our clients do.
Yeah.
And so, do we need to take the fatty tumors? No. But you got a mast cell tumor? Yeah, you got to take that baby off. And you got a sarcoma? Yeah, you got to take that off. You take the stuff off you can take off.
That's right.
Yeah, the really ugly crap, you got to get off there.
Well, good. I'm glad that veterinary medicine has made it so far as where it is today. I mean, I feel like dogs are getting better care than they were 50 years ago, especially with vaccines and treatments and heartworms.
Excuse me. So the book is bigger. That's the thing you're seeing. The book is bigger. Mm-hmm. The book of so the canine book was like, an inch thick. Now it's 2.5 inches thick or 3.5 inches.
Because as time passes, more diseases, more.
Yeah, there's more information. More information.
Yep.
And sometimes it's man-made stupidity, like what we're involved with copper storage disease, and sometimes it's just
environmental.
Yeah, well, somebody brought dogs in, and we had an influenza breakout in dogs, and that came from a racetrack down in Miami, and something mutated a little bit, and so you figured it all. It takes a while to figure it out. Then they figure it out and they make a vaccine for it. And we don't see much more influenza anymore. So we used to see a fair amount of it. Well, you didn't see a lot of it. Certain people did. You had to live in a town where they had it. Well, and then they imported those dogs from China one time. That was kind of stupid. And they brought influenza in with them.
Was it the meat dogs? They brought in a bunch of meat dogs from China.
I don't recall that part. I think what they did is brought in wild dogs. And they thought they're going to domesticate them and then adopt them out. And
it didn't work.
Yeah, I think if you live trap a coyote and then you try to domesticate it, I think that you're going to have your arms just scarred to hell. I think they're going to chew you. I think good
intentions, poor execution.
Yeah. Well, then what they do is then they adopt these dogs out, and the people are like, this isn't going to work. So they take them back to the shelter after they've been out in the population, and they take them back to the shelter, and then they give all the other shelter dogs the same crap. And then those shelter dogs go out, and now they're carrying crap that they've inherited from
going to the dog park,
from some Oriental dog that came in from overseas. That's correct.
Other people.
Oh, yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. And you fix what you can fix, and you treat what you can treat.
You say every morning before you leave, you said another day of fighting
disease and pestilence. I tell your mother that. I said, I'm off to make my fortune fighting disease and pestilence. And she doesn't even look up anymore. So anyway, she's
50 years later.
She's listened to this crap for so long. She's
same song and dance.
In fact, she's immunized for all that.
That's right. That's right.
Her favorite thing with me is like, what the hell were you thinking? What the hell were you thinking when you did this? This weird stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, what a great topic of conversation today.
A trip down memory lane. So
I know.
Is it different than it was? Yes. And listen, when we got out of school, everybody was gauging what they were going to do versus what James Herriot did, which is all creatures great and small, things bright and beautiful. And what he did was he fought disease and pestilence without a hell of a lot of weapons. Mm-hmm. Now we have really great weapons to fight disease and pestilence with.
And they're just going to get better.
You people ought to be proud as hell of the pharmaceutical companies that have showed up with all these things.
But they do get more expensive.
They do get more expensive. Yeah, you're right, the pharmaceutical people fall in love with them. It's when the patent comes off and they become a commodity, then they become reasonably inexpensive to use.
That's the one thing I feel like I have this love and hate relationship with Big Pharma, because it's like they come up with great medications that work.
For their stockholders.
But they're expensive as hell.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes somebody comes up with something that's better, that's less expensive. We have that going on now with a couple of things. And
good.
Yeah, but veterinarians have to figure out it's better. The big problem is you don't want to fall in this rut where you're using the same thing over and over and over again. That's what burnout is. Not if you know that every once in a while people say, I'm burned out. Well, you're just doing the same damn thing over and over and over again. So that's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what the definition of insanity is?
Doing this same thing over and over and over again and expecting
different results.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
You get it. All right. Well, that's a good note to end on.
Look how up to date I am on stuff.
Look at you. Yeah. Knowing definitions and shit.
Yep.
Proud of you. All right. Let's get some outro music going. We sure appreciate you guys listening along with us today. We hope that we've been able to share some good information that will help you love your animals as much as they love you. Don't forget, treat the treatable, prevent the preventable, and we will catch you on the next one. In the meantime, Pete is going to be out fighting
disease and pestilence.
And I will be recording a new podcast. Stay tuned.